And anybody who's familiar with any movies or has an addict in their life, like my life was absolute chaos, bizarre concoction of incarceration, being homeless and whatnot.
Is there anything about homelessness that most people wouldn't think about, like some like inside scoop on what it's like being homeless?
Yeah, a lot of times I didn't feel like I was that homeless, but looking back, I was like, I lived in a barn for a while.
Really?
And I did that Seattle Times at Outsiders podcast, and part of that is they interviewed me and my mom. And part of that interview, they were like, "How long were you homeless?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like 2 years off and on." And my mom's like, "It was longer than that." And I'm like, "Mom, who knows more about how long I was homeless, me or you?" Yeah. She's like, "What about when you were living in a barn?" And I was like, "Mom, barns are houses." And she's like, "For cows." And I was like, "You got a point." But it's the thing is, like, to me, like if I was outside, like I lived on a porch for a while, and I'm like, that was homeless. And I lived on a couple different porches.
Were you using meth while you were homeless?
Yeah. And
so
it
what
really
is like a day in the
it.
life of a homeless meth head?
I want to put this out there too, is that there's a lot of folks that had it a lot worse than me. And I was raised middle class. And so like I suffered situational poverty basically, whereas a lot of the issues that we face today is generational poverty. But anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox and just tell you that, it was chaos, man. Like it was a thing. Like I would go to my mom's house and tell her that I was gonna sober up. I'd stay there maybe 5 or 6 days a month, maybe. But I can't. It's hard to explain, especially my barn days, because it's not just meth. It's like,
here, do me a favor.
I
just
can't explain
tilt
it.
this up a little bit.
All right, yeah.
Like just this part right
This
here.
part, okay, I'm gonna try to fix it.
Yeah, just I want to make sure.
Is that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just like meth. It's like this whole thing. Like I really hated being sober, and I would do whatever I had to be to not be sober. And then when I was high, I would do ridiculous, tragic, incredible things while I was high. And
anything cool though? Like,
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Because I've had similar experiences. I mean, there was like a 6-month period where I just completely, I was just gone.
Yeah.
Just doing like I bought a car for cash and drove to Indiana. like
yeah, I could never actually get I could never get that much money to buy a car.
It wasn't a nice car.
No. I have no doubt that you weren't at the Benz dealership. I have no doubt. I mean, a lot of this stuff looking back on it was like I said, it was really dangerous. I'll tell this story. One night I'm high. I'm at a bar called the East Side Club in downtown Olympia with my friend Reed. And they were those guys, they let me live in this barn, and they were all musicians from like upstate New York. And I like met them, and they thought I was funny.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how it happened. I just wound up living in this barn by the side of their house, and anyway, I know how it happened. I was like, "Hey, can I live in that barn?" I don't know why I'm trying to be Mr. Mysterious over here. But anyway, we're at this bar, and I was like, we were going to smoke a joint out at this park. And me and Reed went out there, and I'm basically blacked out. Like, I don't remember this. And we forgot the papers. So Reed's like, "Oh, I'm going to go up and get the papers." Right. And then when he came out there, and this is Olympia, right? And Olympia literally is like the butthole of Puget Sound. Like, it's like the furthest south you can go, and there's all these mud flats. Right. And Reed came back out, and he saw tracks that just went down the beach and around the corner. And he's like, "Oh, I guess Sam's dumbass like took off." Right. And I don't know if I've ever told this publicly, but I don't really care. He was like, "Sam's gone." And anyway, I woke up, and like I was in this garage, right? And I'm like looking around, and there was like an H2, like one of the newer Hummers. And this was probably like 2004 or something, right? And I was like,
Jermaine Dupri.
yeah, I was like, I don't know anybody with a car like this. And I'm like, what party was I at? And then I'm like, I'm curled up and I'm like, what kind of blanket is this? And I looked and it was one of those black covers that people put over barbecues. And I was like on this cold garage floor. I have no pants on and there's like mud up to my chest.
Fuck.
And I'm like, why did these people make me sleep in their garage with a barbecue cover? What kind of asshole would do that? And like, I get up and then I'm like, oh, wait. And I like look around the garage and I had like broken into this garage.
Yeah.
And like, it's on the street that kind of like borders. And so like I found some rain pants, like some Helly Hansen rain pants. Like put them on, and I just like
fucking took off.
Yeah, I just walked back to the barn, and like Reed's there. He's like, what happened? And I did like, I didn't tell people about this stuff. Like I was like, there was the life that I hid that people knew about, and then there was the life that I hid that people didn't know about.
So barn life was
people knew I lived in a barn.
Yeah, that was public facing.
Yeah, I tried to keep it private. Well, I had a girlfriend that would come to the barn, and she was like cool with barn stuff, but like it didn't really work out.
What were you doing for money?
I had some different things, man. Like, I mean, honestly, like I would get money from my mom sometimes. Like I could get her to drop me like $20. Like maybe once in a week, it's like $20 from mom. I'd work day labor. I would find jobs, stole stuff. I'm kind of jumping around it. Yeah. I was like, I feel bad about this, but I don't care either. I used to,
and I want to preface this. Like I have spent a lot of time with people in recovery around it, and like you're not shocking me with any.
I know,
like,
I know.
And for people listening, like if I'm not like, oh my god, it's like addicts and people in those moments, like they're making really selfish, like just survival type decisions.
Yeah, and I like to tell folks too that like the thing that got me to like the worst part of my life, it wasn't like a big decision where I was like, oh, I'm gonna like smoke meth and live in a barn, and like it was like 1,000 little decisions, and all those decisions made sense to me because more than I like being high, like I hated how I felt when I was sober. Like when I was a kid, it was scary. I lived in a scary place in a scary house with a scary dad. And then he died when I was 12, and then everything else scared me until I got high for the first time, and I was like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like I just need to be high and then I'll be okay. And then
it goes away.
Yeah, then it's like the things that I'm scared of are the consequences of the thing that I do to not be scared.
Dude, the worst part was when you started doing that stuff and it stopped working.
Yeah.
That was like the kind of there's no more solution.
Yeah, I think that it always worked for me, even up to the end. And you know what? Even at the very end, man, I would still have nights that were like awesome. That like I was like, that was sweet.
What
like,
was a killer night for you at the peak?
Man, dude, like going to like barter fair and doing like I was doing a bunch of coke and like Molly and I was hanging out with all these graffiti artists and stuff, and like just honestly, dude, sometimes it feels good when people are like they kind of gas you up. They're like, we got Sam here, and like it's like he doesn't give a fuck, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like I remember, dude, I woke up one morning with this girl. I was living in an abandoned house in like Tonasket, Washington, because I got fired from the Forest Service, and like my friend, he was like this graffiti artist who goes by Fetal. He was from like San Francisco, and I don't know how I met him, but like he was coming to my house to take me to the barter fair, which is like this crazy hippie like thing out in North Central Washington. And like I get this knock on the door. I'm like, who's here? And I woke up and I looked over at this girl that I was with, and her face was totally blue because she was like huffing spray paint. And like Fetal like comes in the house, and like I look over at this girl, and Fetal's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and he's looking at her, and he's just like, Sam, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't know. And then there's like my fingers are all bleeding and shit, and there's like broken glass from a light bulb in the bed. And I'm like, oh, like I know what happened. Like I was blacked out drunk. I told this girl that we were gonna do a bunch of speed together. I got some speed. I don't know what happened to it, but I was trying to smoke it with a light bulb. I was too drunk. I broke the light bulb. She realized that we weren't going to smoke any speed, so she started huffing spray paint instead, and then I woke up with her.
Hey, if you like that video, make sure to hit the subscribe button below and follow our page for new weekly content. I hope you're fucking happy with this, dude. I hate doing this shit.